Before G-Funk, hip-hop samples, and modern soul took over, one band from Dayton, Ohio, Slave, was changing the game. Bursting out of the land of funk in the mid-1970s, Slave delivered raw bass lines, hypnotic grooves, and street-born funk that shook the music industry. Their breakout hit Slide wasn't just a chart topper. It became a cultural anthem, sampled and celebrated for decades. With explosive live shows, talkbox magic, and gritty urban soul, Slave helped define a golden era of funk that still echoes through today's hip-hop and R&B. This is the untold rise, fall, and legacy of a true funk powerhouse. In the golden age of classic funk, Slave didn't just follow the rhythm, they redefined it. Emerging from Dayton, Ohio, America's undisputed land of funk, this trailblazing band brought a raw, high-voltage sound that would echo for decades. At a time when Parliament Funkadelic, Earth, Wind and Fire, and the Ohio Players dominated the airwaves, Slave forged a unique identity with heavy grooves, syncopated rhythms, and streetwise attitude that turned heads and moved feet across the nation. Slave wasn't just another 70s funk band. They were innovators who laid the foundation for countless genres to come. With infectious tracks like Slide, Watching You, and Just a Touch of Love, they created timeless anthems that still dominate playlists and DJ sets. These funk classics became blueprints for future hip-hop beats, sampled by legends and revered by crate diggers. Every bass line, every drum break carried the essence of rebellion, passion, and authenticity. At the core of Slave's sound were two musical giants, Mark Adams, whose bass lines earned him a spot among the greatest bass legends in funk music history, and Steve Arrington, the charismatic frontman whose soulful vocals added depth and emotion to the band's sonic punch. Together, they channeled a fusion of funk, soul, jazz, and early electronic elements, crafting a soundscape that was both futuristic and rooted in the rhythm of the streets. But behind the explosive performances and radio success was a deeper narrative of ambition, brotherhood, and eventually betrayal. As creative tensions rose and industry pressures mounted, the journey of Slave became a story not just of musical triumph, but of personal sacrifice and reinvention. Internal struggles, financial battles, and tragic losses shaped their legacy in complex and unforgettable ways. This documentary pulls back the curtain on one of funk's most underappreciated pioneers. It's a celebration of artistry, resilience, and cultural impact. For those who lived through the funk era and those discovering it now, Slave's story is a reminder that true innovation doesn't always come from the spotlight. Sometimes it starts in a Dayton basement and ends up shaping the soundtrack of generations. The rise of Slave in the Dayton funk scene. In the 1970s, Dayton, Ohio, earned the name Land of Funk, launching a wave of groundbreaking bands. Among them was Slave, formed in 1975 by bassist Mark Adams and guitarist Danny Webster. Their sound fused deep funk grooves, jazz fusion, and gritty soul, setting them apart with raw power and streetwise energy. Slave's music stood at the intersection of P-Funk, R&B, and urban realism, giving birth to a bold sonic identity. Their 1977 hit Slide exploded onto the charts with slapping bass, talkbox hooks, and hypnotic rhythm, becoming a funk anthem and later a sample goldmine in hip-hop. With fearless experimentation, Slave used layered synths, sharp guitar lines, and tight percussive beats to shape club-ready, radio-friendly bangers that drew fans from across genres. Tracks like Just a Touch of Love marked their evolution into smoother, melodic territory without losing their funk foundation. This creative growth broadened their reach into disco, funk rock, and emerging electro-funk scenes. Slave's relentless innovation helped define the Dayton funk sound, influencing future genres like G-funk, neo-soul, and modern R&B. More than a band, Slave was a movement, a Midwest powerhouse proving the heartland could groove with the best. Their rise was a milestone in black music history, solidifying their role as funk pioneers with a legacy that still resonates. In 1978, Steve Arrington joined Slave as a drummer, but quickly became the band's standout vocalist, injecting a fresh, soulful edge. His distinct falsetto and rhythmic phrasing elevated Slave's sound, propelling hits like Just a Touch of Love and Watching You into radio staples and dance floor favorites. Arrington's presence marked a sonic shift, ushering in electro-funk vibes and deeper emotional layers that expanded the band's audience and chart performance. With his charismatic stage presence and innovative vocal style, Arrington became the group's creative engine. Critics and fans alike praised his ability to fuse gospel-influenced vocals with gritty funk rhythms, giving Slave a more polished yet still raw identity. Behind the scenes, however, this spotlight created friction. As Arrington took on a bigger artistic role, longtime members felt sidelined, leading to growing internal strain. While Arrington pushed for spiritual themes and musical growth, others aimed to stick with the hard-edged funk roots that had defined Slave's early success. This creative tension created a divide within the group. Still, the Arrington era brought the band their most commercial success, and his voice became inseparable from Slave's signature sound. Steve Arrington's impact was undeniable. He transformed the band's trajectory while planting the seeds of conflict that would eventually reshape Slave's future. As Slave reached the height of their success in the early 1980s, behind-the-scenes tension intensified. Creative clashes, ego battles, and financial disputes created a rift within the band. Founding members who had laid the foundation of Slave's gritty funk sound began to feel overshadowed by newer influences and shifting musical direction. The balance between the band's raw, street-born identity and evolving commercial sound grew harder to maintain. One major turning point came when Steve Arrington, now the face of Slave's modern sound, began to pursue his own spiritual and musical path. His growing interest in faith and desire for greater creative control clashed with the group's original funk-driven focus. The tension became too great to ignore. In 1982, Arrington left to form Steve Arrington's Hall of Fame, taking with him the band's signature vocal sound and much of their momentum. Following his exit, several core members also departed, including drummer Tim Dozier and keyboardist Carter Bradley. The departures disrupted Slave's chemistry, making it difficult to maintain the group's earlier success. New members were brought in, but the group struggled to recapture the same magic. With the original lineup fractured and artistic vision splintered, Slave began a slow descent. What was once a unified high-energy powerhouse became a revolving door of musicians fighting to keep the funk alive. As Slave navigated the 1980s, their internal struggles were compounded by increasing tensions with the music industry. Like many funk bands of the era, Slave faced exploitative contracts and poor royalty payouts that undermined their financial stability. Despite generating chart-topping funk anthems and influencing emerging genres like hip-hop and G-funk, the band saw little of the commercial rewards they had earned. Record label conflicts added fuel to the fire. Disputes over creative control and mismanagement of funds led to mistrust between the band and executives. Slave's sound was often pushed toward a more mainstream R&B style, diluting their original gritty funk edge. This shift alienated core fans and caused friction among members who felt the group was straying from its roots. Many members later revealed that they received little compensation for hit records like Slide and Just a Touch of Love, despite continued radio play and sampling by major artists. The lack of transparency over finances bred resentment and prompted further departures from the group. The systemic challenges Slave faced mirrored a broader trend of black artists being shortchanged by the industry. While their music built the foundation for future genres, Slave struggled to maintain commercial relevance without proper support. The combination of financial instability and creative constraints made sustaining the band's success nearly impossible. As the 1990s approached, Slave's momentum had slowed, and their presence in the funk world began to fade. Behind the scenes, tragedy struck the band repeatedly, leading to emotional and creative setbacks. Founding member and bass legend Mark Adams passed away in 2011, devastating fans and marking the end of an era. His signature bass lines had defined the group's sound and inspired generations of funk, hip-hop, and R&B artists. Other core members also suffered health issues and untimely deaths, leaving the once vibrant collective fragmented. These losses, coupled with earlier departures, left the band without its original driving force. The emotional toll of these tragedies made it difficult for Slave to mount a true comeback or maintain consistent touring and recording efforts. Despite these hardships, Slave's influence lived on through samples in West Coast hip-hop, classic soul remixes, and the broader funk revival movement. Tracks like Watching You and Slide remained club staples, frequently reintroduced to new audiences through DJ sets and film soundtracks. However, without the leadership of its iconic members and amid ongoing legal and branding issues, Slave faded into the background of popular culture. While smaller reunions kept the name alive, they lacked the magic and energy of the original lineup. The band's decline wasn't due to lack of talent. It was the culmination of loss, industry neglect, and the unforgiving passage of time. Legacy of Slave and Steve Arrington's musical return. Though Slave's original lineup never fully reunited, their impact on funk, R&B, and hip-hop remains undeniable. Their grooves, especially on tracks like Slide, Watching You, and Just a Touch of Love, have been sampled by legends like Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, and Janet Jackson, solidifying their influence on the G-Funk era and modern soul. Steve Arrington, the band's standout vocalist and drummer, became a beacon for the group's lasting legacy. After stepping away from music in the mid-80s to focus on spirituality, he returned in the 2000s with a renewed creative fire. His solo projects, blending funk, gospel, and electronic soul, introduced his signature voice to new audiences. In 2020, he collaborated with artists like Thundercat and producer Kexledge, showing that funk's heartbeat never truly fades. Slave's music continues to resonate in today's funk revival, inspiring a new generation of musicians and producers who crave authenticity, groove, and soul. Dayton, long dubbed the Land of Funk, still honors their contribution to music history, with local events and documentaries celebrating their story. While tragedy and industry challenges dimmed their spotlight, Slave's legacy endures through timeless tracks, Crate Digger Respect, and Steve Arrington's inspiring return. In a world chasing trends, Slave reminds us that real funk is forever, raw, bold, and rooted in soul. Slave's journey is a story of brilliance, struggle, innovation, and enduring legacy. From the gritty streets of Dayton to the national stage, they brought a sound that was raw, unapologetically black, and sonically ahead of its time. Despite internal battles, industry politics, and heartbreaking losses, Slave carved out a permanent space in the history of funk music. Their influence didn't fade, it evolved. Sampled by hip-hop royalty, honored by funk revivalists, and celebrated by crate diggers and DJs, Slave's music continues to pulse through generations. Steve Arrington's return only reinforced the timelessness of their sound, reminding us that real funk isn't a trend, it's a movement, a culture, a legacy. In a world that often forgets its pioneers, Slave stands tall as a reminder that true artistry can never be silenced. Their rhythm lives on, not just in the beats, but in the hearts of every artist they've inspired. Funk might have changed, but thanks to Slave, it never died.